Hello and welcome back to the Voltcast, the weekly podcast where I interview professional athletes, event organisers and many more about their experiences in the running world. In this episode, I'm joined by British professional long distance runner and New Balance Manchester running member, Adam Craig. We caught up with him 10 days after his debut appearance at the Valencia Marathon, where he ran an impressive 2:13.54. We talk about his move to the longer distance road running, competing for Team GB in the World Half Marathon in Poland, as well as his professional debut in the marathon and his goals leading into 2023. Adam Craig is looking like a force to be reckoned with over the marathon distance, and I can't wait to see what he brings to the table next year. Without further ado, let's jump in to the Volt. Adam, can you just give us a rundown of your recent Valencia Marathon experience? It was 10 days ago now, or 11 days. So how are the legs feeling?
Yeah, they're slowly getting there, slowly getting back underneath me again. The first 4 or 5 days was not too fun, going up and down the stairs and stuff. There was a few bum shuffles and going backwards, but yeah, no, they're finally getting underneath me again and getting a few easy runs in this week, which is good.
Nice. So obviously Valencia Marathon, it's your first marathon, and you came away with a pretty impressive time, 2:13. So can you just give us a bit of an introduction into what was the build up towards Valencia? When did the build up start?
Yeah, so the build up started for me. It would be later on in September. So I kind of raced through August and September doing Manchester 5K, and then a race up in Stirling, a 10K, the big half as well in London, and kind of just wanted to get my racing legs back. So the early part of the build up was, slightly lower mileage and a bit more racing, but you obviously using that as a training benefit as well. And then, yeah, I got into sort of the thick of it really, September, October time, after the Great Scottish Half Marathon. That was kind of the last race. And then from there, it was like getting into the thick of it. So I did probably, what would that be about? Yeah, 6 weeks from there of kind of really heavy marathon training. Before that, had been 80 to 90 miles a week with a race or something. So still quite a heavy training load. And then into the marathon specific, which I only kind of topped out at about 105. But we wanted to leave um, a few stones to be unturned next time. So we kept the mileage relatively low. Just had 3 key days, which for me was a Tuesday, a Thursday, and a Saturday. So Tuesday was the sort of speed session, doing 10K kind of paced efforts. The Thursday was a nice medium long run with a solid pickup in it, and then the Saturday was just a hard long run. So getting up to sort of 20 to 22 miles on a Saturday on a kind of rolling terrain. So it was hard running. Um, and then, yeah, in the final 3 or 4 weeks, kind of hitting a lot more marathon specific sessions with picking up drinks bottles, taking on drinks as we're going, and things like that. And yeah, it all seemed to go really well. Seemed to be quite lucky that my body responded well. It was, relative, although, yeah, you're tired, you're knackered, but you're still able to get out each day and get the miles done. So, yeah, I enjoyed it for a first time around.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the performance that you gave with only running well, I say only, but 105 miles. I'm sure that when you start getting up to those 120-mile weeks and stuff like that, you're just gonna jump up that next level. So what was the reason really behind keeping the mileage relatively low? Was it just because you just hadn't adapted to that load before?
So, yeah, since 2020, I've kind of been doing a bit more mileage. And kind of first time I did the half, I kind of was doing jumping in a few marathon sessions with teammates and things. So I was used to the load, but like I say, we just wanted to play it safe, and we wanted to go to Valencia thinking, okay, we could have done this a bit better, we could have done this a bit more, but next time we'll do that. And I think to be able to walk away with a 2:13.54 after, maybe not maxing out training wise is quite good and quite exciting for the future. That, hopefully when we do kind of push those limits next time, like you say, there's a little jump in performance there, and I can get up to the times that should hopefully have me competitive in the British field and some elite races as well. So yeah, it's quite exciting, but it was just about playing it safe, getting to the start line healthy, and and feeling ready to go.
A lot of marathoners that I've interviewed before, they kind of say like the best weeks are the taper week. So what did like your taper week look like, and how did you like begin to start to feel in the lead up, like for the final
Well,
couple of weeks?
my taper weeks were horrible.
Oh,
I'm
really?
not a fan of tapering personally. I know I have to do it, and you got to ease back. But unfortunately, one of my teammates came down with COVID 2 weeks out, and so that was a bit of a scare. Like, sitting having dinner a couple of nights earlier, and then yeah, obviously they tested positive. So I was isolating in my room basically as well as them, and just yeah, kind of cleaning the house all the time, and not the sort of thing you want to be dealing with 2 weeks out. Um, but yeah, the running just reduced. We really reduced the obviously the volume of the sessions, but kind of kept the intensity in there. So I think 2 weeks out, I did about 80 miles, and then the week of it was only about 60, including the marathon. So it was quite a drop that week. But it was probably only the Wednesday or Thursday before the marathon that I actually started to feel like I was getting fresh. And you've got all those weeks in your legs and all those long runs and all the miles, and yeah, you don't really start to feel fresh until you actually kind of get there and you do your shakeout the day before, and you're like, right, okay, yeah. So for me, it was a bit, yeah, it was a new experience, and I'm glad I listened to my coach and did as I was told and did my taper like I should, because yeah, it paid off. And yeah, warming up in the morning of the race, I just had that feeling of yeah, I'm good, I'm ready to go now.
Yeah. Especially like recently, I've got a 10K race this weekend, and my coach has like made me like try and taper as much as possible, and it's just horrible. Like I've gone from
Yeah,
like 56 miles last week to I think it's going to be a total of 16, excluding the
yeah,
race, and I just
yeah,
feel like I'm not sure about you, but I just feel really agitated. Like I just can't. I feel like I just need
yeah,
to run for longer, but I know hopefully
yeah.
eventually it'll pay off. So
Yeah, you just got to remind yourself that that fresh feeling is a good feeling and not a bad feeling.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I did a few strides after my like half-hour run today, and I felt pretty good.
Yeah,
So hopefully we're on
good
for a
stuff.
PB. Um,
Nice one.
but
Good
yeah,
luck.
so obviously you said that the Great Scottish Run was like a big like key performance in your build-up. Can you just like walk us through the race, because you ended up coming second overall, um, and obviously it kind of seems like in your build-up, all of these like longer distances has really started to like click for you over the past few years. So can you just like dive into the race and just yeah give us a little rundown?
Yeah, so like I said, I raced the big half earlier in I think that was September, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't race ready, but I threw myself in, gave it a go, and I ran 65, and I knew walking away from there that that wasn't an honest performance.
Hmm.
So I think it was another 6 or 7 weeks until Great Scottish. So I was going there with a lot more confidence, and I knew obviously Callum Hawkins was racing, Derek Hawkins was racing, and there's a few other guys in there, and I thought, okay, this is going to be pretty an honest effort. And yeah, me and Callum just kind of we had a little chat, which maybe we didn't give player cards too early, but yeah, we just kind of stuck with each other, and he pushed on. There's a little hilly section in the middle of the course, and yeah, he pushed on through there, and he was just stronger than me. But I was able to kind of keep him in my sights and kind of keep him there or thereabouts. And yeah, I mean, to get beat by him on the day is, I'm absolutely fine with that. But, I was pleased to come away with a sort of more honest reflection of where I'm at. And I think on a faster course, I could have run quicker, but 64 low on the day was good for me. And yeah, I was pleased, and that gave me a lot of confidence going into the sort of final big 6 week block before Valencia. That I was fit, I was in a good place, and I could really get stuck into the real marathon stuff.
Half marathons are just such a good reflection of like where you are at, and also like you don't really have to kind of like the days after you don't really feel as bad as you do after a marathon.
Yeah,
So um,
definitely.
yeah. So obviously, as I said before, like you've kind of stepped up your distances, and you said this yourself as well. But right at the start of your running career, and especially on your Power of 10, you have lots of 1500 miles, 800s, and 3Ks. So
Yeah.
what happened between you kind of focusing on them and then obviously deciding to move up to like 10Ks, half marathons, and marathons? Like, was the distance like longer distance something that you would always favoured over the 15, or yeah, what kind of
Yeah,
happened?
yeah. I think I do have a bit of natural speed in the legs, but I have always taken to the longer sessions or long runs. Whatever it's been. If it's been a long tempo run or whatever. So I've always kind of taken to them and naturally been a little bit, I guess, more comfortable at that stuff than spiking up and ripping around the track. So I enjoyed the 15s and the 8s when I was younger. And then obviously when I got sort of 2021, doing 3Ks, 5Ks, and then stepping up to the 10K. And I just feel like every time I stepped up, I would have a good performance and think, oh, I like the longer stuff. And then, looking to the next step was obviously 10K to half marathon. It is a big step up. But in 2020, obviously we had the pandemic, and that totally changed all the plans. And I think I was in a sort of decision stage where I could have committed to the track, but not knowing if I'd be able to race the track in 2020, or I might have to wait a year to race, or make the most of the surroundings. Which at that time, Johnny Mellor and Ross Millington were doing marathon build-ups for London in 2020, which was later on that year. And so myself and my coach at the time, Steve, he was just kind of like, yeah, let's test the water in a bit. And I kind of got chucked in a few of their sessions, and they showed me a thing or two of the longer stuff. But I was kind of getting that experience in the longer sessions and learning what it would take to do a marathon myself one day. And then obviously the natural progression of doing the longer stuff was to do a half. And I was lucky to go to the Antrim half that year, and debuted that in 63:24, I think. So that was obviously pretty positive, and given everything that had happened that year, that had me as the first reserve for the World Half. And then, I was lucky to get the call up for that as well. So I think that kind of, again, fueled the fire. It was another good experience at the longer distances. Um, and even after doing that, I still wasn't ready for a marathon. And I wasn't saying, 2021, I'm doing a marathon. It was probably the later half of 2021 where I kind of decided myself that, okay, now I'm ready. Now I feel like I want to do the longer stuff, and I want to get stuck into the marathon sessions, and then look to debut over the marathon. So, and that kind of gave me the whole of this year to build around that. I had to go to the track earlier on in the year, and didn't quite go to plan. But that was kind of the underlining for me of like, right, okay, I don't fancy the track anymore. I've given it a go, so let's kind of get fit and get ready for the roads, and then go for a late marathon. And Valencia was the obvious choice at this time of year because the weather and the conditions and the course are just unrivaled. So yeah.
Yeah, so like you said, obviously the weather and the conditions kind of worked out really well for you during Valencia. So after your shakeout, when you get there, how did the race play out for you? Can you just just give us a rundown of how the race went?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to say it went perfectly, but it was plan A. It was exactly how we kind of hoped it would go. And going into the first marathon, I had no idea what to be shooting for really. I had 2:14, 2:15 in my head, but I also wanted to be pleased if that was a 2:17 or whatever. So I just wanted to make sure I had three goals, and it was to hit all my bottles, get all my drinks, and kind of avoid stitches, and hit them well, which I did. Be smart, be patient early doors, and kind of just tuck in, and let the early part of the race happen, and then be able to finish strong. And even if finishing strong was just holding pace, but just feeling like I wasn't going backwards. And when I got to 35K, I thought I'm feeling good here. So I think my sort of 35 to 40K was my fastest 5K of the race, which was by 8 seconds or so. But at that stage of the race, that for me was finishing strong. So yeah, everything, all the sort of targets that I'd set within the race, all went to plan. And so it was really good. We had a good group, good pacemaker. Plenty of guys in the group, so that when things got tough in the last few sort of Ks, you've always got someone to chase down. And it went plan A. We'll say it that way.
Yeah, that sounds great. Like I mean, like we spoke about before the podcast started, I obviously had a completely different experience to you, and it's kind of scared me away from the marathon for a few more years. I think I just need to get used to taking on more fuel during the race.
Fueling on the go.
Yeah, exactly. It's always hard. So what kind of nutrition were you taking during the race?
So I was using OTE Sports Super Carb drink.
Yeah.
So I was having some of that every bottle, and each of my bottles I had a gel on it. So I would stick the gel down my shorts, For unfortunately at 35k there was a mix up with the bottles on course, so our bottles weren't actually at the station. But I kind of planned and prepared for that, so I had a gel in my shorts, so I was able to just replace that quite easily with that. So that was the OT caffeine gels that they've got. And yeah, I mean, all through the build up, I was using the same drink and didn't have any issues with it, kind of in my stomach and things, which was really good. And didn't get sick of the taste either. So come race day, it was still all right to be sipping on. So
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I've recently moved over to that super carb. So on my long runs, I usually have the super carb blackcurrant one. So,
yeah,
um, so yeah,
yeah, it's
I
pretty easy on the stomach and pretty
yeah
easy to go
definitely
down as well. So
yeah. Um, so like you said earlier, when you debuted at Antrim, you ended up being a reserve for GB, and then you ended up getting your call up for the World Athletics Half Marathon. So did you always have like a GB vest in sight when you did that, or did you just kind of go to the race thinking this is just my first half, like let's see what I've got, or did you know that there was
yeah,
a qualifier on the line?
and I knew what the time was, but
Yeah.
I wasn't going there thinking, I'm going to get picked, because obviously the team that had been picked earlier in the year, from when the champs was supposed to be, was really strong,
Mm.
and guys that run 62 and below, and so I was thinking, if I can run 64, 63, I'll be happy with that. So I definitely wasn't thinking that as the goal, but then after the race, obviously that was when the selection meetings started happening, and people were dropping out because they were doing marathons, and kind of my name got closer and closer to the six spots, and I thought, there's a chance here actually. And then obviously it's a bittersweet phone call to get the reserve spot. For me, obviously, at that point hadn't had a GB vest, so I was delighted just to be included in some way. But I guess the bitter part is when the kit gets delivered, and I didn't want to open it because I wanted to make sure I was putting it on if I was going to open it. So it was only about, I think it was 5 or 6 days before that I actually got the call to say that I would be going, and so that was obviously the sweet moment where you get to kind of know for sure that I can open the kit now. I'm going. I can pack my bag and look forward to it. So
Yeah, and can you kind of give us a rundown of going out with Team GB and how it all works for the people who obviously have never experienced that before?
yeah, I mean it's just like any other race really, but obviously there's a lot more flags on the vest out there. But yeah, we flew from Birmingham, so all the team kind of flew together. So it's quite a nice feeling of camaraderie about the airport in your gear. And yeah, we got to Poland, and obviously we were still kind of heavily under COVID protocols, so it was all masks, it was all you know COVID tests and all that sort of stuff. Hotel, there was no social interaction really in the hotel because we were kind of encouraged not to. And then yeah, even when we went for a run, we were still advised to wear a mask and things. So it was a bit of a different experience, I would say, to maybe what I thought my first GB vest would be. But it still doesn't take away from kind of the pride you get putting on the vest. And yeah, warming up in the same area as Joshua Cheptegei and Jacob Kiplimo and stuff, and you just kind of, yeah, I was pretty amazed with kind of what was going on around me. That it was, yeah, just such a great experience, and yeah, really pleased to have ran there.
Can you now talk about like you obviously moved to Team New Balance Manchester? How did that kind of start? When did the discussion start for that? And kind of what does the team vibe bring compared to just obviously training in your normal like day-to-day training group?
Yeah, so I basically just reached out to Steve Vernon, who was coach at the time, and we just kind of had a chat. He let me know the kind of rundown of the team and what the team would include and the whole setup. And he just said, go away and have a think about it. You can come down and visit. So obviously I was very impressed, and I thought, yeah, I'll definitely get down for a visit. And I came down and I saw the setup. I went for a run with the guys and just met everyone. And I thought, yeah, this is an ideal setup. Um, so yeah, basically just moved my life down here, packed the car, and yeah, that was it. Came down, and I think the team, it takes away the individual aspect of the sport. You've always got people around you. I'm lucky enough to be in the athlete house that we've got down here. So there's four of us in here. So you're never alone. You're never sitting in your own kind of watching Netflix or something. There's always company. There's always people around. And I think it's that company that it helps on the days where it's pissing down with rain, or it's snowy, or it's sunny and roasting, and it's you've always got someone to go for a run with, or you're never kind of sessioning on your own, so to speak, and there's always those opportunities to just have someone else motivate you, and if you're not quite feeling it on the day, or get dragged around to a session, or be that positive kind of influence if someone else is having a bad day, and you can be the one to kind of help out. So it's a real, it's a good team environment, and it's helped me certainly get through the last 3 years and get through the pandemic, which was a tough time for everyone. But we were quite lucky in a sense. We could just get our heads down and run, stay fit, and stay out of the way of everyone else, and get through the other side pretty good. So
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of weird because America has a lot of systems like how you've got it set up in Manchester, but I'm pretty sure there's no other English professional team. It kind of always seems to be like this big sort of everyone, just all these pros like just run on their own or train with like similar speed guys, but there's never really been much of a team until like the foundation of like Team New Balance Manchester. Is
yeah,
this something that you would like to see kind of rolled out throughout kind of UK sports?
I think so. Yeah, I think I was lucky enough to go to America and study in America and in the NCAA system. Um, and just the setup they've got over there, being able to replicate that into professional sport, and then obviously we're over here trying to replicate the same thing. And I think if you want to give people the opportunity and really, I appreciate there's a lot of money behind it, but I think you got to put your money where your mouth is, and invest in people. And a setup like this is, it's incredible. And I think everyone that's here is trying to do their best to make the most of this opportunity, because like you say, you would just be kind of trying to fit in with other groups and other athletes, whereas for us it's kind of laid on a plate, and we've got to go and earn it and make sure that we represent well and run fast. And I think it should be something that hopefully should be looked at, even if it's doesn't have to be a fully sort of sponsored group or anything, but just trying to get people together and training in bigger groups, because it just helps. It helps bring people on, and if you've got varying abilities as well, then it can just help keep that fire alive for people that they maybe think, oh, I'm a 16, 17 minute 5K guy. I'll never get to 14. I'll never get to 15 minutes. But then they go and train with people and think, well, wait a minute, I can hang on to them for 6 by a mile, or whatever the session is, and you know fuel that fire for people. So I think it's certainly something that I'd like to see a little bit more of, in the UK and even in Europe as well.
Yeah, I kind of especially feel like you're so correct there. I mean, it's so hard to find a good, like, decent amount of people, especially in my area. I live in Kent. Like, I kind of, if I want to train with fast guys, it's more like join a London club, and that's just kind of not really a feasible thing at the moment for me, because obviously, like, you have the finances of actually having to go out to London, and stuff like that. And I think obviously, like, there's Tunbridge, that's like the biggest kind of like endurance team kind of down here, but that's still like a massive drive for me to do. Like, so there's at the moment, like, there's no point in doing something like that. But I think, especially even if there's like some sort of program for younger athletes to be able to get involved. Like, I know America do like camps and stuff where you can go and like
Yeah,
train with the pros and stuff, and I think that just like would really spur on kind of bring the sport into like more mainstream media as well in the UK, because I think I mean, if you look at like the British champs that happened this year, it was pretty dire circumstances, where
yeah,
where literally there was only kind of family and friends in the audience. Um,
yeah.
if you compare that to Highgate though, like, obviously you raced the Highgate 10K, there was a huge kind of crowd there. How do you think we could like do that more in the sport in the UK? Obviously, like, we've discussed teams already, but um,
Yeah. I
how?
think
Yeah,
I think things like Highgate, it's making it a bit more inclusive for everyone, because unless you're involved in the sport, you're not really going to be too interested in watching, at 34 to 28, 27 minutes of running. Like, you're going to want to
yeah,
watch the last couple of minutes and see who wins. Um, which that's absolutely fine. But I think there's got to be a way of including people who, maybe aren't totally invested in the sport, but, would still come down and watch. And I think Highgate's a perfect example of that. It doesn't have to be alcohol related or anything like that, but just putting on a bit of a show and making it a bit more than just 20 sweaty guys running around the track, or 20 ladies chasing each other around the track. It should be a bit more about the environment and the music, and the shows on the side and stuff like that, and food vans. And yeah, I think that Highgate is a perfect example of what could be done. And yeah, hopefully, again, it all comes down to money, of course, and who's willing to back it. But I think, yeah, Highgate put on a really good example of what could be done for track racing to make the sport a bit more inclusive and a bit more enjoyable to watch, for those who maybe aren't totally invested and don't really not understand the sport, but they're interested
Yeah.
in who wins it, not how they win it, sort of thing. So yeah, I think just using Highgate as a template and copy and paste that over to a few other events throughout the year would be good, and it would get people along, and then probably get people invested in the sport within the UK, and would help athletes kind of build their profile and become a bit more of a household name, so to speak, within the UK.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think there's so much to be done, but obviously at the end of the day, as you said, kind of money gets in the way of every runner's dreams, really. um,
Yeah.
Speaking of that, before you went and raced Highgate, you actually went out to St. Moritz for an altitude training camp. How would you say that impacted your performance? Because I know that obviously altitude has like a really good effect on people's performance. I've actually been to St. Moritz myself, but compared to like your like previous PBs, it kind of Highgate turned out to not be like, obviously, as you said earlier, one of your best races. Did altitude have any effect on that? Feel
Yeah,
free
so
to.
I think, I mean, personally, I think when I drop straight in from altitude, normally, obviously, they say there's that window kind of 48 hours that you can really race well, and I think I need a bit more time to adjust.
Mm.
So I think training went really well out in St. Moritz, and I hit a session probably 10 days out maybe from Highgate, where I was kind of thinking, oh, I'm good to go here, and that's why I kind of rolled the dice a bit at Highgate and was chasing the sort of sub 29 on the track. And yeah, I think it's just that feeling when you come down of, you don't feel good, you never really feel good, but you just are able to hang on. And I just haven't got to grips with that yet. So I think personally, yeah, it probably did. But I think had I had another week or two to kind of adjust and just get back into normal life here, and then have Highgate, probably would have been better for me. But that's just a learning curve along the way. It's no one's fault. It's not my fault or anyone else's. It's just one of those things that you try, and if it works, great. You do it again. If it doesn't, you kind of learn from it, and then hopefully next time, it should be a different result. But yeah, I mean, I love altitude training. It's very humbling. When everything you do has you out of breath. You go for an easy run, you're out of breath, or you're ripping it around the track and you're out of breath. So everything's got you working hard, which I really like.
Yeah, I'll never forget like the first easy run I did when I arrived. I think I ended up running 8:30s when I'm used to like running like
Yeah,
7:30s easy. And it was a whole minute
yeah,
slower, and I just felt like I was almost running a tempo run, which just it was just
yeah,
crazy like how different it is. Uh,
yeah,
so I think that kind of like leads us on to like the next section of the show. This
yeah,
section is called no context track. So I've sent you a photo. It will appear on the
yeah.
screen um, in the YouTube video. Um,
Cool.
so can you just give us context to that photo?
So this photo was, it was myself and my teammate Yip Vastenberg, and it was just as we were starting to come out of kind of COVID lockdown and stuff, and obviously all the races had been cancelled. There was nothing on the horizon. Both of us had been training well, and we were kind of sitting in the house one day, and we were like, how can we do something that's like, how can we have a race? But obviously, you know, Yip at the time was running sort of 16 minutes, and I was running 14:10, 14:15. So we were like, how can we race each other? And so we thought, well, we could have a handicap on we have a disused railway that we use quite a lot for training. So we could do like a straight line handicap race. And then we thought, obviously we're not the only people in the pandemic. Yeah, we're a little part of it, but maybe we stick it on the Instagram live and kind of give people something to watch. And it was a bit of fun at the end of the day, but also for us, there was a massive kind of, like, we were both nervous. Like, we turned up to the car park and started a warm up, and we were kind of chatting to each other, but we were both quite nervous, so we got those race nerves, which was good. That we hadn't really, obviously there was a lot of disappointment when races were getting cancelled. So I think that picture kind of sums up like the team dynamic. Like we just raced each other in a race that we'd probably never do again, or totally different circumstances, but we had such a great time. And just Yip set off, I think she was a minute 19 in front of me, and I had to chase her down, and she beat me in the end by like 10-15 seconds, something like that, or maybe longer, I can't remember, but she did beat me, I'll give her that. But yeah, like we just both had a great day, and our teammates were there kind of splintered down the Middlewood, and they were shouting us on and cheering us on. So it was just that picture kind of summarizes like the enjoyment of the kind of team spirit that we had during that time. And even though it was a pretty rough time for everyone, we were still able to kind of have a bit of fun in it, race, and stick on the team vest, and have a bit of fun on the Middlewood, and run some pretty quick times as well, which was good.
Yeah, I think that kind of really sums up what kind of ended up happening out of COVID. Like so many people also got into running, but never run any races. Like I know a few people who have only just recently started, like they've stopped playing football because they couldn't play football at the time, so now they're a runner. But some people just haven't raced before. So like what would you say to someone who's never raced before, and how would you encourage them to kind of get to a starting line?
Yeah, I think personally, I think the parkrun setup is amazing. Like there's one every week, and there's one pretty much every park that you could imagine. So I think if you're maybe unsure of what you should be aiming for or anything like that, just stick on your shoes and go and find your closest parkrun, and get involved, because that will help you kind of suss out where you're at, given the sort of competitors that you'll have there. But it's a lot more of quite a relaxed environment, which I think is good, because there can be too much emphasis on winning or running X time or whatever. So I think just getting your shoes on and getting involved, and then thinking, all right, okay, I enjoyed that. Maybe look to then get involved with a little bit more of a proper setup race. And sorry, not that parkrun isn't, but like a road race, or something that you would enter 2-3 months down the line and kind of train for and build towards. So yeah, I would say just get into any sort of race setup, and try and enjoy it. Like don't put any targets on it, don't put any pressure on it, because as soon as you start doing that, you don't enjoy it as much. And then try and fuel the fire from there, and build your way into some maybe slightly more competitive races, and building around faster people.
Yeah, I definitely think that's right. Like the parkrun's actually pretty good, but my local one is actually a trail, so it's a completely different race. So obviously research if you're wanting to be a road runner, then probably find a local road one instead of my slippery trail, which is going to be quite
it's
interesting.
Good for cross season, no?
Yeah. So I've had an idea that so these podcasts go on my just general YouTube channel where I do running videos and stuff. So I'm going to be doing the Christmas park run, but
nice.
Obviously it's going to be a trail race, so it's going to be quite interesting. And there's always the hazards. Like there's so many slip hazards every corner because all the mud just gets churned up around there. So I'm going to see if I can win it. I've won it quite a few times.
Nice.
But
the Christmas one will be good.
Yeah. Well, the thing is as well, like a lot of people. So I've got a few friends who like go to Loughborough and stuff, and they're coming back from obviously really good training. Like one just ran a 30-50 in the in the 10K. So I think he'll probably humble me when I race, but it should be good fun. And I think that's like the whole aspect of parkrun is like no matter who you are, like you have people running from like 15-16 minutes to people who run all the way down to like 50 minutes. And it's always good to hang around and cheer on the last guy. We have this one guy, and he's a bit of a legend. He goes every week, and every week he's last, but he loves it. He was just like,
That's what you like to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the running community.
Yeah. Everyone knows his name as well, so he's kind of a bit of a legend around the local area. Yeah. So I think that kind of works really nicely onto the final questions of the show. So these are the questions that we ask every single guest. A lot of people kind of struggle with them, so I'd like to kind of hear your answers. So if you were stranded on a desert island and you could be with one person throughout history, whether they're fictional, non-fictional, in the past or the present, who would it be and why? And it can't be Bear Grylls because we've had quite a few people say that.
Had that one. Yeah. So yeah, I've got a few, but I think purely for the fact that I would want to enjoy my final few days of being stuck on a desert island, I think Peter Kay,
Oh
just
yeah,
purely because you just have a laugh, and he's just, yeah, I don't know, he's someone that I think I'd just like to sit and listen to for a couple of days, and yeah, so it's probably quite a simple one there, and it's not quite a as inspirational character or anything, but yeah, I think Peter Kay, and just enjoy my last few days on the desert island.
yeah. I actually really got into watching Peter Kay during COVID, and
Yeah,
did you see that he's got tickets out for his new tour?
yeah, he's
Did
got a
you
new
manage to
tour.
get?
Yeah, I haven't. No, I missed
Ah,
the pre-sale. They went in like seconds, so
yeah,
I missed it. But yeah, I would have loved it. I watched him when I was growing up younger, so yeah, that would have been a good one. But yeah,
yeah, yeah. Me and my brother had like 5 computers on, and like
yeah,
with our phones as well, and we only managed to get like one of them to actually go through to the sale. So
oh, nice.
we did manage to get some tickets in the end, but it was
Oh,
definitely
jealous,
definitely a
very
struggle.
jealous.
um, and then secondly, like, what is your funniest story to do with running? It can be something you've seen in a race or done in a race, or kind of a funny experience from a training run.
Um, so I was having a think about this, and I don't have any crazy stories. It sounds so boring, but yeah, because I've asked like some of my friends and my teammates and stuff what they if they have any, and yeah, they've all got way more exciting experiences than me. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, I can't think of anything that's like stand out funny. I mean, there's been a few runs in America where there was kind of snakes popping out of the grass, and yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, nothing. I've not had any really exciting runs where something's happened. So
Yeah.
I'm really sorry to be boring there, but yeah,
Ah,
that's. I'll let you know though if anything happens. I'll be the first one to be in touch and let you know. But yeah,
yeah.
sorry about that. That's a bit of a downer.
That's all right. I mean, there's been some like really not funny stories that people have told. Like, I mean, one guy had a near death experience, which just was just so random. Like, it was on the
Yeah,
show 3 weeks ago now. And there was like a frozen lake. I think this links quite nicely to the weather in England right at the moment.
yeah,
Because in Manchester, isn't it like -8 or something at the moment? It's
yeah.
crazy, isn't it?
It was like -7, -8 today. Yeah, it's. I think the high was like -2, so it's been pretty. It's been an indoor day. Let's put it
Yeah,
that way.
yeah, fair enough. No, but yeah, so this guy just like him and his friends decided to run across a lake, which is obviously the not advised thing to do. And he went
Yeah.
sprinting across the lake, got to the middle, and just went straight in. Um,
Oh, jeez.
and his friends like had to kind of like commando crawl across the ice and like drag him
Yeah.
all the way
Oh
to
God.
safety. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was quite a
See,
harrowing
I've got
story.
nothing. I've got nothing to compare to that.
Yeah,
All
uh,
my runs have been boring compared to that.
yeah, that's fair enough. Do you not have any like memories of America? Like obviously you said about the snakes, but any like cross country races that stand out as even if it's just like a great after party experience or something like that.
Yeah, I think which year was it? It was my second year. So I was in the Division Two, so I wasn't
Yeah.
D1. But the D2 circuit they do it's called a festival every 3 years.
Mm.
So my second year when I was there, it was a festival for cross country. And there was like what was it? It was swimming and diving, wrestling, and then indoor track. No, sorry, cross country. So there was like you'd sit and have breakfast with like divers and stuff and people that I would never have kind of spoken to before, and that was pretty cool. And then obviously all the competitions ended on the same day, and the hotel that we were staying in was like a triangle, and then all the rooms were kind of off, and yeah, the middle was just an open space, and I remember just everyone on like the balconies, like probably shouldn't say, drinking out of red cups, as they do in America. And it was just a bit of like unorganized chaos. It was just one big party in the whole hotel because it was all booked out for the NCAA. So thankfully we weren't disrupting anyone's holiday or time away. But yeah, I mean that was a pretty good after party because it just seemed to be the whole hotel was having a party, which was
Yeah.
was pretty cool. But yeah, nothing got broken and nobody was jumping off into the fountain or anything. So,
That's
no exciting stories from that.
well, I guess that's pretty lucky anyway. So
Yeah,
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 sounds
exactly.
like a good experience. Anyway,
Yeah,
so thank you so much for coming on, Adam. It's been great to chat to you, and I'll see you guys next week.